Hello everyone and welcome back to Crime Documentary Files. Today, we're examining a shocking poisoning case that occurred at Xiangtan University in Hunan Province, China, in 2024. The final verdict was announced on April 7, 2025, when Zhou Liren, a graduate student at the university, was officially sentenced to death by the Xiangtan Intermediate People's Court for the intentional murder of his roommate. Zhang Hailan was the victim in this case, one of thousands of students at Xiangtan University. Born in 1999, he had previously completed his undergraduate degree at Xinxiang College, a constituent school of Xiangtan University. In the fall of 2022, through relentless academic effort, Hailan passed the graduate school entrance examination and officially became a graduate student at the university's prestigious law school. In 2023, he successfully passed the judicial examination, an important stepping stone for his career aspirations. His future was clearly mapped out. After completing his master's program, he planned to settle in Changsha and take the civil service examination or pursue a career as a judicial assistant at an intermediate court or as a prosecutor's assistant. Coming from a family of 3 children, Hailan was the middle son with an older sister and a younger brother. His parents ran a business in a small city in Ganzhou, Jiangxi Province. From a young age, Hailan stood out for his filial character and deep consideration for his parents. He regularly took initiative in helping the family business, from planning promotional campaigns and minding the store to delivering goods to customers and providing thoughtful customer service. Beyond being a good son, Hailan was beloved by friends for his warm and considerate nature. Whenever going out with groups, he always packed his backpack with essential items like portable chargers, tissues, and umbrellas, ready to share with others when needed. At school, Hailan lived with 2 classmates from the law school in a 4-person dormitory room on the 6th floor of Building 10 in the Qinhu student housing complex. With his enthusiastic personality and natural leadership abilities, his roommates trusted him enough to elect him as room leader. Thanks to his skillful coordination and the spirit of unity he fostered, the room was always filled with laughter and harmony among the 3 friends. However, this peaceful picture began to change on June 25, 2023, when the school decided to arrange for Liren, a graduate student from the Mark School, to move in and share the room with them. Liren, like Hailan, was a 2022 graduate student. Born and raised in Zhuzhou, Hunan Province, he had made a bold academic transition from engineering to Marxist theory. Previously, he had graduated with honors in biotechnology from Jiangxi Agricultural University, a prestigious first-tier national educational institution. What puzzled many was why Liren, a student who didn't belong to the law school, was placed in a dormitory specifically designated for law school students like Hailan's. The answer lay in his particular personality traits. Liren was someone who tended to isolate himself, often living a solitary life, attending classes alone, eating meals alone, and rarely initiating communication with roommates. Before being transferred to live with Hailan, he had already changed dormitory accommodations 2 or 3 times, with the main reasons stemming from disagreements about daily living habits. On the very first night Liren moved into the room, Hailan shared with Shu Karen, his close friend from high school, via WeChat that the room had just gotten a new roommate. But even the first interaction had made him feel quite uncomfortable. 12 days later, Hailan continued confiding in Kieran about how Liren had just moved in and was already trying to establish his own rules, demanding that whenever the air conditioning was turned on, the door and windows must be opened even during winter when heating was needed. Hailan's bed was located near the window, and during that time the school was conducting renovation work, causing significant noise and dust from outside. Despite Hailan's repeated explanations and requests, Liren insisted that the windows must remain open, claiming that ventilation was extremely important. This forced Hailan to seek advice from a large chat group of 500 students from the 2022 cohort. "Hey everyone, do you think this noise is loud? There's a lot of dust too, right? I want to close the door and windows a bit, but my roommate doesn't agree. He says I should ask everyone's opinion about whether any room needs to keep doors and windows tightly closed when the school is doing road repairs." Just over the matter of opening and closing windows, Loren had multiple conflicts with his roommates, with tensions sometimes escalating to the point of physical altercations, forcing students from adjacent rooms to come intervene. Not stopping there, Lyran also had the habit of bringing flammable liquefied gas canisters back to the dormitory for use. Even stranger and more disturbing was his habit of observing others abnormally. Regardless of what someone was doing, he would tend to stare at them persistently. According to records, in just a few short months since moving into this dormitory, Lyran had created no fewer than 20 arguments with his roommates. The dormitory room that had previously been peaceful and harmonious had now become a place where loud arguments frequently erupted, leaving everyone feeling exhausted and frustrated. Because of these issues, Hailan had to mention the tense situation with this midterm transfer roommate multiple times in the family WeChat group chat. He had confided to his sister about Lyran's habit of returning to the dormitory very late, usually around 1 or 2 a.m., and after returning, creating loud noises while arranging his personal belongings, waking everyone in the room and seriously affecting his roommate's rest. Hailan also shared with his sister about another annoying habit of Lyran's. He would frequently observe his roommate's clothing attentively, then make sarcastic and mocking comments. Not only that, Lyran would also peek at his roommate's phones, and after looking, he would continuously offer criticism and persistent commentary. This situation made the roommates feel so harassed that they had to seek refuge in other students' dormitories. For instance, Lyran often preached that life philosophy was extremely important and could not be wrong. He insisted that shoes and socks shouldn't be bought too cheaply because cheap items were usually not durable and easily damaged. Water cups shouldn't be chosen in overly delicate styles because they would look feminine, and people shouldn't drink too much cheap lemon water. After presenting these principles, Loren would begin lengthy sermons with his roommates continuously. In these conversations, he always positioned himself as having to win and never accepting defeat. After these extended sessions of conveying philosophy and critical education, the roommates nearly felt like they were going insane. One roommate from Xiangtan even had to choose to escape home temporarily to avoid this tense situation. Additionally, while dormitory cleaning was divided according to a rotation schedule for everyone to take turns, whenever it was Lyran's turn, he acted as if he knew nothing about his responsibilities. Furthermore, Lyran's personal hygiene also left much to be complained about from his roommates, especially his frequent failure to flush the toilet properly after use, making it difficult for everyone to accept. As room leader, Hailan had to step in multiple times to mediate internal disputes in the dormitory. In an effort to minimize potential conflicts, he even volunteered to replace Loren in cleaning the bathroom. However, subsequent reality proved that all of Hailan's sincere efforts were in vain. Not only did Loren show no signs of self-reflection to change himself, but conversely, his behavior became increasingly abnormal and out of control, causing the relationship with his roommates to continuously deteriorate. Particularly seriously, Loren even made mocking remarks about the university where Hailan had completed his undergraduate degree, claiming that while this school didn't rank highly, its tuition was expensive. He proudly boasted about having studied at Jiangxi Agricultural University, a first-tier university where he achieved excellent results and received annual scholarships, then kindly consoled Hailan that he shouldn't feel inferior about this. Despite Hailan's best efforts, using every possible method to prevent conflicts that might erupt in the dormitory, the contradictions between Lyran and the other two roommates continued to escalate seriously. The arguments became increasingly fierce and persistent, to the point where it could be said that deep resentment had taken root in their relationship. Realizing that the situation had reached an impasse and could not continue like this, on March 5, 2024, Hailan decided to directly meet with Lyran's academic advisor, officially submitting a petition to the school requesting that Lyran be transferred out of their current dormitory. However, Lyran firmly refused this proposal, claiming he would self-adjust and improve his behavior. In the following days, he continued to maintain his old lifestyle and attitude as if nothing had changed. On April 2, 2024, in a conversation with Kieran, his close friend from high school, Hailan sent her a PDF file containing a dormitory adjustment application dated March 30, 2024. This document not only described in detail the daily conflicts occurring in the dormitory, but also included a 1-minute and 4-second audio recording capturing a recent heated argument caused by Hailan once again returning to the room very late. In this recording, Hailan and a roommate could be heard shouting at each other harshly. Hailan showed extreme dissatisfaction with the suggestion to contact the advisor about changing dormitories using crude language. "Who needs your advisor? What does this school's dormitory business have to do with you?" Meanwhile, the other roommate continuously had to warn Hailan not to engage in pushing and threatening finger-pointing behavior. During this, Hailan tried to act as mediator, continuously intervening. "Everyone, please don't get physical. Let's talk civilly," while advising Hailan, "If you're willing to be mindful, not to come back late and affect everyone's sleep, then please pay attention to that. If you're not willing to change, we don't have any other options, but you also shouldn't blame others when they complain about you." Through the exchange between Hailan and his close friend Karen, it can be seen that he had forwarded all the related documents and audio recordings to the academic advisor, hoping that the school would once again intervene and find a way to transfer Hailan to a more suitable living arrangement. However, what no one could have anticipated was that before receiving any official response from the school, Hailan would face an unexpected and serious incident. On the evening of April 6, 2024, Hailan did not return to the dormitory as usual. On the morning of April 7th, after enjoying the packaged oatmeal that he and his roommates typically shared with each other, Hailan suddenly began feeling nauseous, dizzy, and experiencing vomiting. Recognizing his abnormal health condition, he immediately went to Xiangtan Central Hospital, a medical facility about 3.7 miles from the university, for examination and treatment. By April 8th, Hailan's condition had become more serious, and he was transferred to the emergency department, with the hospital officially issuing a critical illness notice. Due to serious damage to Hailan's liver function, he recorded a video message sent to the private WeChat group of the 3 siblings in his family. In the video, lying on his hospital bed, he explained that he might have eaten something wrong leading to gastroenteritis and expected to be hospitalized for about a week. He also mentioned that classmates were currently staying at the hospital to care for him, but he felt he shouldn't continue troubling them for an entire week and asked his sister's opinion about whether their parents could come to help. When seeing the words "critical illness notice," Hailan's sister immediately felt deep unease. While working in Shenzhen, she didn't hesitate and immediately bought a train ticket from Ganzhou, Jiangxi to Xiangtan, Hunan for their father, so he could quickly be by his son's side. Hailan's father arrived at the hospital around 3 p.m. on April 9th. However, Hailan's health condition continued to deteriorate alarmingly that same evening. Due to serious damage to both liver and kidney function, he was immediately transferred to intensive care. At this point, the hospital had to issue a critical condition notice. On the morning of April 10th, the medical team at Xiangtan Central Hospital organized a consultation, concluding that they strongly suspected Hailan was experiencing food poisoning. Because the hospital lacked the necessary specialized testing capabilities, medical staff collected 2 tubes of blood and 1 bag of urine from Hailan to send to a third-party testing agency for analysis. However, test results from the third-party agency showed they could not detect any traces of common pesticides, rodenticides, or herbicides in the submitted specimens. Recognizing that they could not accurately determine the cause and therefore could not provide an effective treatment plan for Hailan's condition, at 4 p.m. that same day, he was transferred to the intensive care unit of Xiangya Hospital at Central South University. Just 1 hour later, Hailan's sister also arrived at the hospital, but unfortunately by this time, Hailan had already fallen into a deep coma. By April 12th, Hailan's vital signs became extremely unstable and unpredictable. His sister began to worry that her brother's condition might have become incurable. To clarify the real cause of this serious illness affecting Hailan, at 3:41 p.m. that same day, the Xiangtan City Public Security Bureau's Lake Branch received a report from Hailan's family, alleging that Hailan might have been intentionally poisoned by someone. The family's concerns were not unfounded. On the afternoon of April 13th at 1:07 p.m., despite 50 minutes of multifaceted emergency treatment, Hailan died from multiple organ failure. Hailan's sister said her brother's condition developed too rapidly. In just 3 days from continuous abdominal pain, the dull, aching pain rapidly intensified to cramping pain, with over 20 episodes of yellow watery diarrhea, more than 10 episodes of vomiting stomach contents and mucus, accompanied by abdominal distension, fatigue, dry mouth, heartburn, bloating, coughing, night sweats, chest pain, shortness of breath, progressing to conjunctival hemorrhage in both eyes, systemic collapse, septic shock, rhabdomyolysis, liver damage, acute kidney failure, coagulation disorders, and respiratory failure. Before his death, the only last words Hailan left were, "I'm only 25 years old. I want to live." Subsequently, through forensic examination, the cause of Hailan's death was determined to be acute colchicine poisoning. Colchicine is primarily used to treat acute gout attacks. Colchicine has many pharmacological effects, but also comes with some toxic side effects, such as liver and kidney function damage, neuromuscular disorders, etc. Severe cases can be fatal due to circulatory failure and cardiac arrhythmias causing death. After thorough investigation, police discovered that Hailan, 27 years old, had very strong suspicions in this case, because the biotechnology major he had studied in undergraduate school was directly related to colchicine. Although on April 11th, Hailan had completed moving out of the dormitory, by April 17th, police had arrested him to assist with the investigation. Because this was a case of particularly serious nature, the Xiangtan University student community had agitated reactions and heated discussions. More worryingly during this time, some false rumors even appeared, including claims that the food delivery orders Hailan frequently placed were often stolen, and this had angered him to the point of deciding to put a special toxic substance in his own delivered food. According to this rumor, Hailan had accidentally stolen Hailan's food delivery and ultimately paid with his life due to poisoning. Such baseless and fabricated rumors were not only a serious insult to Hailan's character and reputation, but also like knives stabbing deep into the already shattered hearts of his family, relatives, and friends, creating an extremely painful secondary wound. Faced with this situation, many people could not remain silent and courageously stood up to defend the honor of Hailan, who no longer had the ability to defend himself, while also resolutely condemning and opposing these harmful and damaging currents of public opinion. For example, Hailan's undergraduate class president said Hailan was the study committee member, a very upright, kind, and responsible person with whom he had lived harmoniously for 4 years. When graduating, Hailan was responsible for everyone's graduation thesis in the class, managing the paperwork. When worried, Hailan would help with work to reduce pressure for him. Hailan had quite high emotional intelligence, always offering encouragement and praise, saying that meeting this class president was the class's good fortune. Additionally, Hailan would cheer and encourage the class president and classmates before major exams. After graduating from university, Hailan would still arrange to meet him for meals together, exchanging information. Such a good person, whose life had just begun, had already gone to the other world. Hailan's sister posted saying that her brother was harmed at school, but all kinds of untrue news were spreading online. He needed everyone's help, urgently hoping friends would actively speak up online to help Hailan clarify the truth. As Hailan's relative, she could not endure such harm and truly didn't understand the intentions of those spreading rumors, not knowing why they wanted to slander her brother. Although she didn't know their identities, those spreading rumors could be held legally accountable. On the morning of April 19, 2024, Xiangtan University officially issued a public statement, clearly affirming that the rumors circulating online about stealing food deliveries were completely baseless and untrue. After a long period of serious disruption from false and malicious rumors, finally on January 9, 2025, the murder case related to Hailan's death was officially brought to public trial at Xiangtan Intermediate People's Court. Due to the serious nature and broad social impact of the case, the trial attracted attention and attendance from many parties, families of both sides, the Xiangtan University student community, as well as representatives from various social strata. At trial, defendant Hailan clearly showed an attitude of admitting guilt and accepting punishment. He confessed that starting in January 2024, he had searched for and downloaded from the internet many research documents related to colchicine. Subsequently, he purchased high-purity colchicine powder from online sources, and after receiving it, carefully hid it in the wardrobe of his dormitory room. According to Liren's confession, on April 3, 2024, after learning that Hailan and his roommates had once again officially proposed to the school requesting his transfer out of their current dormitory, Liren took advantage of a time when no one was in the dormitory to carry out the poisoning. He deliberately put colchicine into the oatmeal container of the roommate he hated most. According to his confession, he initially intended to put colchicine into that roommate's personal face wash products, but due to extreme tension and anxiety, he couldn't open these face wash products, so he changed his plan and decided to put the toxin in the oatmeal container instead. What was unexpected was that Hailan had a very good relationship with the very roommate Liren was targeting, and the two often shared snacks with each other. The result was that the roommate considered the initial target never touched the poisoned oatmeal container, while Hailan, a completely innocent person, accidentally ate the unusually bitter-tasting oatmeal and ultimately paid with his life. However, Liren offered the defense that he had no intention of deliberately harming anyone, and the use of colchicine was only for the purpose of observing his roommate's reaction to conduct drug property testing. He claimed that he actually wanted to conduct pharmacological research to manufacture gout treatment medicine for himself, because his blood uric acid levels were always high and needed to be controlled. Throughout the trial, Liren expressed deep self-blame and regret for his actions, and formally apologized to the victim's family before the court multiple times. When the judge asked why, after Hailan had to be hospitalized for treatment, Liren repeatedly and firmly denied his wrongdoing, not only deliberately concealing the truth causing treatment delays, but also actively trying to hide and destroy related evidence to cover up his crimes and evade legal punishment. Liren answered that those actions stemmed from extreme fear and panic. In an effort to escape criminal responsibility, Liren had previously submitted an application for psychiatric evaluation before the official trial. However, because he had no recorded history of mental illness, and at the time of committing the crime his mental state was completely clear and lucid, this request was decisively rejected by the court. When the trial reached its conclusion, the prosecution concluded that Liren should be held criminally responsible for the charge of intentional murder and recommended the highest sentence of death. During the trial, when interviewed, Hailan's sister told the media that when Hailan was receiving emergency treatment in intensive care, not finding the cause of poisoning was what devastated the family most. If Liren could have stepped forward to explain the situation in time, perhaps Hailan's fate would have been different. Although colchicine's effects are very strong with no effective antidote, at least that attitude could have proven he truly wanted to save the victim's life. But Liren didn't even grasp such an opportunity. Before the trial opened, Liren's parents had come to Hailan's home to apologize to his family. Hailan's family did not accept the apology. They said the belated apology was meaningless. He had to bear legal responsibility himself. On April 7, 2025, after careful trial proceedings, the court issued its final verdict, concluding that Liren had, due to contradictions and disagreements in daily life, developed deep resentment toward his roommates. To satisfy his anger and desire for personal revenge, he used the professional knowledge he had accumulated during his studies and took advantage of a convenient opportunity to deliberately introduce dangerous toxic substances into the shared living space of the dormitory, targeting two roommates. The tragic consequence of this action directly led to the death of a completely innocent person. The court determined that Liren's behavior fully constituted the elements of intentional murder, according to legal provisions. The motive driving his criminal behavior was assessed as extremely despicable and base, showing subjective malice at an extremely deep and dangerous level. The case had negative and harmful effects on society as a whole, while the criminal nature was considered extremely serious and unforgivable. Based on current legal provisions, the court determined that this behavior must be punished in the strictest manner and therefore sentenced defendant Liren to death. From 1992 to 1993, Tsinghua University experienced a famous poisoning case that shocked all of China and even the world. In 2024, the Xiangtan University case occurred again, with victims meeting misfortune in dormitories on university campuses. This cannot help but make people seriously consider how university students should handle dormitory relationships. Regarding Hailan, there's another point to be made. Hailan said he bought colchicine online. If what he said is true, then online shopping management is indeed too lax. How can ordinary people be allowed to freely purchase dangerous items? The country also needs to legislate and implement deeper management of online shopping. Both buyers and suppliers of dangerous goods should be required to have relevant credentials. Actually, shipping companies should also have corresponding regulations, because in the process of buying, selling, and transporting these items, no party can be careless. If any link goes wrong, it will cause enormous harm to society. And that's today's case. Thank you for watching and see you in the next videos.